it, they're talking about manifesting. Okay. And they said they truly believe in this, that if you manifest it in your mind that this is will happen, that just by thinking it, right? Having that faith, that thought will manifest. You're putting it into existence that, hey, I'm going to be successful because I'm going to get that job. And just by doing that, you'll get the job, to her. And I said, that's interesting. I practiced manifesting before and it didn't turn out well for me. And she goes, what do you mean? You say, well, I manifested and what came out was I ended up getting a 12-inch Bic.
Right.
I just got a big lighter. Nothing really. Nothing crazy.
Right.
I'm getting people a little bit more excited about fasting.
Okay, great.
I've been an avid promoter, just based off of my results and my physical, my mental, my spiritual results of fasting. And I think more people need to hear the truth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I
think the truth has been buried for many, many years, and I think it's time to get it out.
Yeah. That's interesting. I was listening to Neil, my pastor, and he was talking about something, and he said he made the comment that all this stuff going on, and a lot of the Christians and stuff just aren't saying anything. They're just going along, and as long as it don't affect them. And he pointed out, I forget what it was, but what verse and all, but it was in Revelations. And he said the first ones in the fiery lakes of hell are going to be the cowards.
Right.
The ones who didn't say nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just always kind of thought how bad I would feel if, somebody I really cared about, a long time from now came up to me and goes, well, why didn't you say anything? You saw, why didn't you say anything? Oh, I didn't want to hurt your feelings or whatever. Yeah, well, you love me so much you're going to kill me.
Right.
I mean, whether they hear or not, it's like you said, it's our job to say something.
Right.
I'm not going to hound you about it, but
yeah,
I'll say something.
Well, we can keep talking about that. So, let's get started.
I don't have any experience with it, but let's talk. Go ahead.
All right. Well, welcome, my brothers and sisters, to Two Old Goats. I'm wanting to get a little uncomfortable today.
All right. Well, y'all jump in, adjust your volume just right, listen in, and I don't know. I'm starting to think. I enjoyed our last one. I'm starting to think this is kind of like a good Texas barbecue. It ain't any good unless you get it all over you.
Don't get it on your forehead.
You're right. There you go. Tongue will slap your brains out trying to get to it.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, let's rock on.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about that fasting thing, and I've been dipping and dapping and playing with it probably for the last 2 or 3 years. A little bit here, a little bit there. Not so much like religiously, just
right.
Just doing something different. I think it's important, to try something different, see what happens. And I don't know, every time I do something like this where it's, logically thinking, it makes sense. It's like, why do I feel like I've known this my whole life? And, why does it sound right? And every time that happens, typically it's a huge change in my life. Kind of give you a back history. So about 3-4 months ago, I did my blood work with the VA hospital, and my HDL was close to 500. My LDL was over 300. And of course, the big thing, for them was my A1C. My A1C was 7.6, and my modern Western doctor was blowing her mind out. She's just like, "Oh my God, we got to get you on statins, and we got to get you on insulin, and oh my God." At no point in time did she ask me like, "Well, what's your eating habits?" Or what's your exercise habits, or where are you at in life? None of those questions. It was like straight, let's just get medication.
Yeah. The only thing I would add too is, are you getting out in the sun?
Well, you can add all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're not asking. She's not asking any of the "What are you doing in your life?" questions.
No, they're trying to figure out what pills to roll.
That's all they want. They just want pills, potions, and lotions.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm not mad at her for it. I understand that's what she was taught. She opens up a book and says, "Okay, well, if this is here, this is what you do," and that's been their solution. I know you and I both have read several books where, America is probably the number one in the world as far as trauma. Like serious, you're gonna die, get into the ER, and they can stop you from dying.
Right.
Where they fail is the long-term type of ailments that you're slowly killing yourself, you're slowly dying. It's foreign to them. They don't know, and that's where pharmaceuticals and modern Western mindset takes over, and then it's a mind fuck for everybody.
Yeah.
They tend to make you sicker quicker. So for 3 months, back to what I was talking to the doctor, she wanted to get me on all these statins and all this stuff. And, I said, "Listen, I've talked to cardiologists and real cardiologists, and all of them are on the same page that cholesterol truly really doesn't have much to do with heart attacks. Truly has nothing to do with that stuff. It can be an addition to, something else, but it's 100% sugar. Inflammation, heart attacks, Alzheimer's, all of those things, asthma, it's all related to sugars. And so I had asked her, "Hey, before we do any medications, I'd like to try this new thing. I've been reading this book from Dr. Fung. There was 2 of them. One was the Obesity Code, and then the other one was the Ultimate Guide to Fasting." I said, "I've been reading these books. I think there's some different solutions in there to where I don't have to take medications." So I did. And for the most part, for the full 90 days, I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% like never cheated. There was a day or two there that, I went to Whataburger, or if I went to Taco Casa or whatever, For the most part, though, I really stuck to it. No more soda pops, no more sweet teas, no more white flours, no more breads. Really cut back on the rices and the potatoes and things like that. I really, not so much a carnivore diet, more like a keto, because I did have some vegetables. I had broccoli here and there. I had some cauliflower here and there. An ass ton of avocados, loved avocados, but pretty much stayed away from all that other stuff. And seed oils, stayed away from all canola, vegetable, corn, all those oils I stayed away from. The only oil I ate was olive oil or avocado oil. So now fast forward 90 days, I go in first week of January, which was last week, and I did my blood work. And my blood work came back. The doctor called me up. And apparently she had forgotten our conversation,
Right.
Because she goes, "Okay, got your blood work, and yeah, everything's really high." And I go, whoa, let's look at this. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Right.
So she said, "Well, my HDL was at 250."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, that's like half of what it was. It was like almost 500. Now it's 250. She goes, yeah, but the LDL, though, that one's a really big concern." I said, "Well, what is it?" She goes, 180. And I almost like passed out because I was so excited. My LDL has never been that low.
Uh-huh.
Even back when, several years ago when I did that full vegan, no oil vegetable thing, it was like 187, 190 back then. So to be at 184, I was elated. I was like, oh, that's, what my cardiologist would do? My cardiologist would say, you're cured,
Right.
uh, and then, of course, my A1C, it was 7.6, and now it was 6.8. I'm no longer diabetic. I'm now pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
So, she was like, well, it's all still really high. You don't need insulin anymore, but I'd really like to get you on metformin. I said, no, 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 no. I've done the metformin thing. It don't work. Well, what about the statins? I really, really want to get you on some statins. I said, again, the cholesterol thing, you really need to get yourself educated on cholesterol. You're reading books that aren't telling you the truth. And so there at the end, I said, do you want to know what the secret is? I mean, I dropped everything significantly. I'm not talking 20 or 30. I'm talking 200, 300 points I dropped, almost a full point in my A1C. She goes, yeah, what's the secret? And I said, Dr. Fung's obesity code and his ultimate guide to fasting. I started fasting and I was doing intermittent fasting. I was only having 1 to 2 meals a day, and it had to be within the noon to 6 window. And my meals were consistently where it was supposed to be as far as what my nutritionist said, which was 110 to 120 grams of protein. I think it was 70% or 70 grams of fat, 60 to 70 grams of fat, and then 20 to 30 grams of carbs. And that's what I did. And it was really good. I mean, it wasn't difficult. I had hamburger patties, so I'd make bacon cheeseburger patties, put it on a bed of lettuce, with pico de gallo and avocados and all that stuff. And man, it was enjoyable. I didn't feel like I was going without any of those meals. Or I'd just have a big, huge steak, with a little bit of broccoli on the side. Or, nothing crazy. It wasn't, very expensive, and it wasn't difficult to cook. And then once a week, I would fast for 24 hours. And then at the end of every month, I would fast 3 to 5 days. And it wasn't, the mindset, I was in for it. Let's see what it does. And it wasn't difficult at all. It was actually very easy. If there was a week where I couldn't do the fast on, Monday to Tuesday or whatever, it's not a big deal. I'll do it later in the week. Everything's flexible. I don't have to do it, but I owe it to myself. So at some point in time, I did have to do it. So the doctor agreed I get another 30 days or 90 days, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So I think so. I think that the biggest factor is how I feel. My mindset, my mind is a lot more clear. I'm not taking, 5 to 8 shits a day, sleeping. I sleep like a rock star. My skin clears up. I don't have the eczema and rosacea, all that stuff. All that stuff just goes away. The biggest thing is that eliminating sugar, you know? So just educating yourself, and that goes into like what you and I were talking about earlier is I'm being that big factor as far as advocate of sharing this information about fasting. And I was just talking to a couple of my friends here in San Antonio, and they had overheard me talking. I may have been on the phone with you or something, but they had overheard about the fasting, or it may have been Chris. I can't remember. But they're like, what is that? Are you serious? Like, how long do you fast for? I said, well, typically, it's not really a 24-hour period. It's actually more closer to 32 hours once a week, and then 3 to 5 days. And they're like, why would you'll die? You can't survive. So we have to change your mindset on that, because the truth is you're a pantry. And if you have a belly, your pantry's full. You ain't going to starve. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're not supposed to go more than 3 days without fasting. I know there's some religions that do that fasting. They do dusk to dawn. I think that's for the Muslims. They do that during Ramadan. They don't drink anything or anything until nighttime, and then they gorge themselves in the middle of the night, and then they fast all day long. I don't know if that's, I've never done it. I've talked to a lot of people that do it. I don't think that's the way it was supposed to be set up. I don't think you're supposed to, you know, keep away from all that stuff and then just overindulge at night. I think you're missing the point on why they're fasting, because it's supposed to bring you closer to the spirit of Allah or whatever it is. So, but, I'm not going to judge them if that's what they want to do. That's what they're going to do. But I think they're missing the point, So that conversation about the fasting, it's interesting because I know you and I were talking about earlier this week. You were talking about not listening to your old self. Your old self's probably not a greatest guide for where you are today. And that I was just talking to little Chrissy about it. I was like, holy crap, that's just like fasting. Because there's a point in fasting after 72 hours, after your 3 day, where the cells in your body actually reset. They don't remember anymore, because you can fast for 24 hours, 48 hours, but as soon as you start eating again, your set point, right? Your body weight set point, your cells remember, oh, we got to go back to where we were at, And so that's why a lot of people fail, doing the calorie in, calorie out diets and things like that, because after a certain point in time, they hit plateaus and their body's going to fight them. Hey, we can't go past this. So it doesn't matter if you put less food or more food. If you do carnivore, or if you do, keto, if you work out 2 times or 3 times a day, it doesn't matter, because now the body's going to fight you. Where doing a 3 to 5 day fast, it resets your cells. So now your cells, when they come back online, when you start feeding it again, it doesn't remember that you've always been at 250. It goes, okay, where do we need to be at now? And as long as when you come out of that fast and you're eating healthy, you're eating your carnivore diet, your keto diet, whatever it may be, your vegan, vegetarian, whatever you choose, but eat it as if you weren't ever fasting. Don't go back and just gorge and have triple cheeseburgers and all that stuff, because then it's all for nothing. You want to come back slow and go right back into your normal diet. And that resets everything. That helps with plateaus. That's what Dr. Funk's talking about. That's why the whole diets never work. That's exactly what it is. Now you're getting all scientific on me. Right. Yep. That's what they say. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, he actually doesn't say that if you eat more food, it speeds your metabolism up. It actually could slow it down, because then your body feels like it doesn't have to work as much, because it has plenty of fat. So it actually does the opposite. But either way, you'll get to a point where the homeostasis comes into play, and it doesn't matter if you put more food or less food in your body's going to fight you. That's where the 3 to 5 day fasting comes into play. Of course, ultimately, eliminating sugar and refined flours out of your diet is an absolute must. Because if you continue to do that, it doesn't matter. You're going to have the Alzheimer's, you're going to have the asthmas, you're going to have the arthritises, you're just going to have it, chronic diarrhea. Those are just all the end results of sugar and refined flours. So talking about that, you were talking about, we're going with not listening to your old self anymore, trying to come up with some new, like erasing a book a little bit, buying a new book so you can see it without your old way
Right. A new book that doesn't have any marks in it.
Yeah.
One that you've read several times before.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I did that with the book we just started, Wild at Heart. I went and grabbed one that didn't have any marks in it because I wanted a fresh start. But, that came to me kind of was, I was went to Texas House a couple of times this week, listening to those guys and talking to those guys and stuff like that. And hearing them over and over. This is what I do. This is what I do. I'm thinking, dude, you're talking to your old self and you're getting advice from a, drug addict, somebody who was a sick person. And that's what I do whenever I listen to my old self for, what's going on today. And the other thing I realize it does is it dooms me to the past. I'm going to do the same. If I keep listening to my old self, I'm going to keep doing that same thing over and I'm going to keep getting the same thing.
Right.
So, I don't know. It just kind of struck me that it's actually, I think psychiatrists or somebody would call it a codependent relationship. I'm in a codependent relationship with my old sick self.
There you go.
So that
So
was kind of one of my thoughts this week.
Well, hearing that and hearing what you're saying about that, I mean, what are your thoughts on the fasting thing for 3 to 5 days to reset your body, just like you're trying to reset your spiritual, way of seeing things?
Right. Well, I think it's a good thing. It's probably the way we're designed. I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything. I'm an LAD. I'm not a I'm like a doctor. So the thing I think about fasting is that I can see how it resets you because I think it also resets you spiritually. Because anytime you can have a psychic change about something. For example, a psychic change about food is what you're doing, and it changes the way I think and all that. That's opening up my brain and options, and that's cutting that, sick me from the past out and going to something new. And so I think, the reset is more than just physical, but you said it's on a cellular level. So I think it's also could be spiritual. And there's other things to fast from just besides food. There's sometimes we need to fast from certain people, or certain habits,
Right.
Stuff like that. So, fasting it's an old tradition in a lot of religious practices.
Right.
And things like that. So, there's a lot to it, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. I think the fasting thing, it's interesting that, we talk about how it's part of religion, but the truth is fasting was just the way our bodies were designed because that's how we lived for millions of years.
Yeah.
It would be not eating for 2 to 7 days until we can find food.
Right. Until the buffalo show up.
Until the buffalo show up, or you find, some wild onions and some mushrooms and a squirrel or something,
Right.
But it was normal and nobody fretted about it, and the way Dr. Fung talks about it is in your mind you think, oh, if I don't eat, then I'm going to get sluggish and I won't be able to think and I won't be able to be, all this, weak and all this stuff. But the truth is it's just the opposite. And until you experience it, you'll never believe it. I was a disbeliever, until I got past that day 3. And then I'm like, wait a second. I'm not hungry anymore. I'm not thinking about food. And man, I feel amazing. Like I want to go do something. I want to accomplish something. And that's what Dr. Fung talks about, something inside you. And I was explaining this to my friends today in San Antonio. You have to look at, so our bodies are just immaculate machines, the way they process things. So they've processed this food that you've overeaten, right? And they put it on this shelf, as glycogen is what it is. And then when our body doesn't have any more incoming food, it goes, okay, what do we need to do? Let's go in the pantry and let's get it. But see, the thing is it's stored it at such a higher level of nutrients, and the glucose level is so much higher than just food coming in. So the best way I can give you an example is, like the difference between a glass of water and one of those amazing like hydration drinks with potassium and sodium and magnesium, right? It's two different ball games. The energy level is just so much higher with those good nutrients. And that's the same thing that happens when your body's feeding off of the stored fat cells. It processes. That's why you feel euphoric. That's why you feel amazing. The growth hormones are injected in. I mean, there's just so many things that happen that makes you just feel good. But you have to get to those day 3 to 5. If you don't get there, you'll never understand what it means.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of your physical senses, or your senses, sight, your hearing, probably sense of smell, although I don't have much of one anymore. As you get to that 3 to 5 day, they intensify, because what's going on in your body, I think, is it's getting in that hunter mode.
Right.
It's been a few days since you ate, so your body's like, okay, we got to sharpen up and find something to eat.
Right.
So,
and that's why you feel amazing.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to run faster, lift heavier, climb more. I mean, it's just the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Be able to catch that possum to put in your possum stew. That's it. Good old possum stew.
It's definitely a different way of life, but it just feels natural. After you've done it for a while, it feels like this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I think, some people, I guess the part of that is the comfort part that people miss, because a lot of people, and this is me talking about me because it's my experience when I'm not eating right, stuff like that. A lot of that eating is just boredom. It's comfort.
Yeah.
Something to do to distract me, to whatever, different reasons, but it's kind of a comfort thing. And it just kind of reminds me, though, we're not built for comfort. We're not made. Our body's not made for comfort. That wasn't God's goal. And He made us. Oh, I want y'all to be comfortable. I'm not sure that happy was either. I think joyful. Maybe He wanted us to be joyful, but I don't think He's too concerned whether we're happy or not.
So, no, I don't think so.
Maybe a different topic. But the way I see it is, He didn't make us for comfort. He made us for greatness.
Right.
And we keep getting in the damn way because we're seeking comfort.
Yeah.
Well,
I think you and I've talked about this a few times. I think that's where the big differentiator between the spirit and the body. The body is designed. Well, look at it this way. So when people don't want to do something, right? A lot of people are like, well, you're just effing lazy, right? But that's not true, because the human body is like, okay, I don't know when I'm going to eat again, right? I don't know if I'm going to have shelter again. I don't know if I'm going to have this again. It's an innate behavior of self-security, okay? Self-sustainability. So it's trying to convince you to not move and not do. It doesn't want to do that. It's designed to do it, but that's where the mind gets involved there, and it really is trying to save you from burning any energy at all, right? And so that's why we're like that. It's our body was built to try to preserve. That's why we have fats. That's why we have a big old belly.
Yeah.
It's saying, okay, well, we don't know.
Right. Well, apparently Americans have no idea.
Right. Yeah.
If you look at beach pictures back from the 70s and 80s, I guess, or 70s and 60s, you can't find a fat person.
Right.
If you look at a picture on the beach today, you can't find a skinny person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was a movie I watched. It was I can't remember. It was about this guy that had his family out in the wilderness their whole life. And one of his daughters came down with a very serious illness to where he had to go back into civilization to try to get it fixed because it was beyond anecdotal things in the wilderness, and she needed modern medicine. And so when they came back and they went to the hospital, they're sitting there in the waiting room, and there was like 3 young girls, and they were looking around, and this is what the youngest girl, she goes, "Why is everybody so round?" Because she's never seen, modern society. She's been up in the wilderness eating, off the land, pure, meat and vegetables. And that's really it,
food with no chemicals on it.
Right. So that was her question. She was like, "Why is everybody so round?"
Yeah. Not processed.
Yeah.
Well, round is a shape. So they're in good shape, I guess.
Round is a death sentence.
Yeah. Sure enough.
Sure
enough. Yeah. Well, good deal. I know little Chrissy's getting into it. He's talking about doing several days, and I think he's in the middle of one now. I don't know how many days he's on.
Yeah, he's been doing 7-day fasts. The interesting thing about little Chrissy is there is an aspect when you get to day 6, day 7, and beyond that. When you get into 8, 9, and 10 days, there is a euphoria. There is a point where you kind of start seeing things a little bit differently.
Right.
And that's what he's ultimately seeking. He's one of us,
Right.
He's like, "Wait a second."
Different.
His exact words were, "Wait a second. You mean I can get high on this?
Get a buzz?
Wait, I can get high on my own supply?"
Right.
Yeah, you can. I mean, there's proof about it, so that's what he's seeking. But while he's doing that, he's loving life, man. He's lighter than he's ever been. He's not, on his inhaler as often. His knees aren't hurting as bad. I mean, the inflammation's going away.
Yeah.
Well, and
that's the huge part, the inflammation.
Yeah. So for him, the way he has looked at himself for many, many years is, chronic joint problems because he's 6'5", 6'6". He's just a big boy, overweight all the time. And then of course the breathing, had issues with breathing. And, he started doing this fasting stuff, and a lot of those things are just going away.
There you go.
He doesn't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. We'll get him on to talk about it sometime.
Yeah, I agree. Which I was going to bring that up too, switching the subject a little bit.
Right.
What do people talk about nowadays?
Oh, there's Chrissy calling me now. What do you mean? What do people talk about? Just in general?
Yeah, I don't think I've had like a normal conversation with just a person in I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm having a conversation, somehow, some way, it gets back into a spiritual way of life.
Right.
In some aspect. The way you think, the way you do things, the way you process things, whatever it may be, it always ends up, in the spiritual way of living. But that was I was having a conversation with myself on the way back to the hotel today, and I had thought about that. I go, what do people talk about nowadays? I mean, I hear sometimes when we have coffee on Saturdays, people are, "Oh, did you see in the news?" Or, "Oh, what are you thinking about this, politician?" Or, "What do you think about this new TikTok, video or this new gadget or whatever?" I don't know. Is that
that's what everybody does. I don't hear as much sports talk as I used to. I think a lot with the way the delivering of the news has become more. It's not just 3 major stations that are lying to you now. It used to be ABC, NBC, whatever, CBS, CNN.
Yeah.
Now, I think most people are getting their news. They find a podcaster or somebody that's, Timcast or IRL or
Right.
some of those guys. What's the Jew guy's name?
Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro.
I
Yeah.
love Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, you can't say the F word. What, Jew?
Right. There you go. That's funny.
Yeah, but I think, people find somebody that they like, and that's who they listen to. And it seems like people's sports teams now are more political teams. They picked a side or picked a team. I tell you what, a lot of people are talking about now. I heard a lot today, just in the office, is that Los Angeles is burning down.
Okay.
For real. It was funny because I was listening to, anyway, they were replaying a Rogan podcast when Trump went on Rogan back a while back, and they got to talking about why Rogan left California. One of the reasons he left was because somebody had told him they don't have any water down here. There's no reservoirs. They're not taking care of the underbrush in the forest and stuff like that. And they already have problems with wildfires. He said, so far, we've just been lucky that the wind didn't catch it just right. But one of these days, there's going to be a wildfire and the wind's going to catch it just right. And there ain't going to be a damn thing anybody can do about it. And that's what just happened. And it just burned down the whole, I think they call it the Palisades, which is a real rich neighborhood.
Right.
And a big part of Los Angeles. Just torched it and burned all the buildings to the ground and stuff like that, all the homes. And it's the rich people. And now they're pissed off, and they're the ones that have been voting for all that greeny weeny crap. And that's why they're in this situation. So they did it to themselves. And but anyway, that was why he left. Well, Trump was talking about, he had talked to them recently. Why don't y'all have any water? It was something about some little tiny minnow fish or something that they're trying to save, that they won't let the water come down. I mean, they get plenty of water coming down from, snow melt in Canada and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they cut it off. They don't allow it because of some little fish or something. I don't know what the exact reasons are, but they're doing it to themselves. That's the problem, And so anyway, that's kind of a topic right now that's pretty interesting. A lot of people are thinking politics in California is going to change, but I doubt it. Who cares? Really that. And then, there was some other stuff they were calling terrorist attack type stuff. Some guy with a Tesla truck in New Orleans, I think. He ran over some people. I didn't know. I didn't listen.
Right.
They were talking about it, and people were telling me, "Oh, that happened 5 days ago or something." I never kept up with it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like you. I'll hear it every now and then, or if it's podcasts I'm listening to, something like that, and if it comes up, that's what I hear. But I don't listen to a lot of political podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
I like Rogan because he's, he talks about a lot of topics. A lot of times it does get back to political and all that, and I'll just cut out. But he does a lot of topics, and then I'll listen to some comedians, and then I'll read books or listen to books, in the car,
Right.
stuff like that. I can't remember the last time I had it on a radio station.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I haven't turned on my radio in years. I think once in a while I'll pull up old Pandora and listen to some of my songs. Like I've been listening to Waylon Jennings and Merle Haggard a lot lately.
Now you're talking.
But for the most, I listen to Limp Bizkit too. So
yeah, okay, I like them.
But for the most part, I'm always listening to books or Earl Hightower, stuff like that. Speaker tapes.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm listening to Alan Watts, and I think it's called the Wisdom of Insecurity.
Now, is he a scientist or a psychological person or
I think he's
of some sort?
I don't
I've
know
heard
if
the
he's,
name, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he's like a scientist. Let me see here what his actual. See what is. See what he's known for.
But I've heard the name before.
He's known as a philosopher. Eastern philosophy, introduced Zen Buddhism, Taoism, and Hindu philosophy to the Western audience. So he brought Taoism and Buddhism a lot to modern culture and the bridge between the Eastern and the Western world. So I think that's why Christians aren't a big fan of him. So,
Okay.
but he's very engaging, and he actually he's pretty humorous as far as some of his sarcasm.
Right.
But he's got some really good books. Right now, the Wisdom of Insecurity, he's really focusing on he sounds a lot like our Dan Millman, the Socrates. He talks about the I and the me. And, the I is the conscious self and the me is the subconscious self. And, well, that's just who, that's what me does, And so then that gives the excuse for the I, that's just what we do.
Right. Well, Millman covered fasting too in that Peaceful Warrior.
Yeah. Absolutely.
7-day. They did a 7-day or 14-day.
Yeah.
Was it 7? Do you remember?
It was just a 7-day for Dan Millman.
Yeah.
But then he also did a different kind of diet too. He was almost more of a vegetarian. Lots of fruits and vegetables.
Right.
No meat for a while.
He still says he's a vegetarian, which
maybe.
I guess is good if you know how to do it right. The problem is getting enough protein, and there's especially beef, but all meat is nutrient dense, very nutrient dense. And
no, I hear you.
You got to get those nutrients.
There are some vegetarians out there, and there's been vegetarians for millions and millions of years that just don't eat meat. They just
some people don't have a choice.
They find different sources of protein, and
right.
Like I'm a big fan of Nate Diaz, a UFC fighter, and he's a vegetarian, and he's like a world champion, and he doesn't have any problems. Yeah. I guess it's just lots of beans,
avocados,
beans and avocados.
Yeah,
that's right. Pork and beans. No pork though. So, no, that was just something I was thinking about. I ponder about stuff like that. Like what do normal people think about? What do normal people talk about?
Yeah.
That I guess I was I don't know if I was kind of hoping that maybe things changed. That maybe people are a little bit more awake and wanting to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Do like what you're talking about. Maybe buy a new book. Maybe see the world in new eyes.
Yeah.
And but unfortunately, I don't know if that's the way it is. I don't know.
Well, I see this term or this phrase every now and then that really kind of kicks me in the butt and gets my attention. People talk about how are you spending your life?
Okay.
And I emphasize the word spending because it's like spending money out of your billfold.
Okay.
Or whatever. You're spending it. It's gone. Whatever part you just spend, it ain't coming back.
Okay.
Did you spend it wisely or foolishly or not pay any attention at all or waste it? This little journey we take to get here, there was quite a bit of wasted time, or I don't know if it was wasted. It took what it took to get me here.
Yeah.
I have to think about it like that. But, how am I spending it? Or even am I investing it? Which would be kind of studying and learning and preparing for, to help other people. That would be more of an investment.
Right.
Spending in an investment type thing.
Okay.
So, I don't know. That thought just came to mind while you were talking about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great topic. In fact, I was just looking on my phone. I was trying to remember on my Garmin reader, it talks about my body battery. My body battery. And that just brought to mind when you were talking about spending time. We're only allotted so much time. But I think, what are we putting in our wallet?
Yeah.
That's
it.
Are we eating right? Are we living right? Are we thinking right? Are we, perceiving things the right way? What are we doing to increase that body battery to where now we have more money to spend, more time to spend?
Right.
And it's almost like cyclical that the more we invest in our body battery or in ourselves of living the right way, the way we were designed to live, increases the amount of time that we can spend, which then goes into the more things you can do to increase that time.
Well, yeah, and since you're doing better, that you have more quality. When you're spending quality.
Yeah.
Instead of just showing up all feeling miserable and saying, "Oh, I'm here."
Yeah.
Now you have the energy and the clearness of mind to contribute.
Right.
Or to grow, to do something that's more of an investment than just a frivolous spending,
right,
so to speak.
Which then that goes into another topic that I heard today, and I overheard somebody conversating about it. They're talking about manifesting. Okay. And they said they truly believe in this, that if you manifest it in your mind that this is will happen, that just by thinking it, right, having that faith, that thought will manifest. You're putting it into existence that, hey, I'm going to be successful because I'm going to get that job. And just by doing that, you'll get the job. And it was funny is because I came up to her and I said, that's interesting. I've practiced manifesting before and it didn't turn out well for me. And she goes, what do you mean? You say, well, I manifested and what came out was I ended up getting a 12-inch Bic.
Right. Right.
I just got a big lighter. So I don't think it worked.
Right.
I think that manifesting didn't work well for me.
Well, that's like positive affirmations, right?
Yes, that goes. It's the same thing.
I do have a big pen.
Right.
I would like a big pen.
Yes. So I mean, I understand it's good to have a positive, optimistic outlook. It's absolutely. But to believe that just by merely thinking things into an existence, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. Well, because the truth is based off of what we've studied, right? The manifestation is the action.
Well, the action will cause the manifestation. Yeah, it'll cause it to show up, and it is part of it too. I agree.
The manifesting we are the manifestation of our higher power.
Right. Well, that's, if you ever read, there was a book that got real popular, a little short book that got real popular. I think because they promoted it and right at the right time, and it came out, I guess, a little bit before Christmas, so everybody was giving it for Christmas. But it was, and the guy who wrote the original Chicken Soup for the Soul book was a big part of it. He didn't write it, but he was promoting it. I think it's called the Laws of Attraction or something.
Okay.
So just by thinking about it, or I love this thing they do at work. They go, okay, we're going to get together and we're going to make a vision board.
Oh, like shit.
I call them collages or whatever. Yeah. Back when I was in the 5th grade, tear stuff out of the magazine and paste it on there.
Yeah.
And and you can walk through our offices, you can see 4 or 5 of them in the office. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, whatever works for you. But interesting thing is, not many of those people are still around, so it's without the action, it's not going to happen. But, it kind of, one of the thoughts too, though, is a lot of people, when it comes to some of the work we do, when we're helping with other people, and we're trying to get other people to help other people, people will say something like, well, I believe it when I see it. But I think sometimes in our work and what we have to do, we're going to have to believe it before we see it. Because if you don't believe it, you're never going to see it. But part of that belief is doing the work.
Right.
You know, back when God said, I don't know if you ever heard Bill Cosby album. I know he's not a popular guy these days, but he used to have a bit about when God told Noah to build an ark. You know, hey, Noah, I want you to build an ark. Noah's like, what? What for? Just build the ark. I wanted this and this. And well, he does the work in faith, you know, and okay. So by doing the work, he was prepared when everything went crazy. So,
Wow.
but if you just heard that and he didn't do anything, he would have been a victim of the flood, you know? So it's about the action. I think but sometimes you got to believe before you will ever see it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that, you know, I've just never been a positive affirmation fan any more than maybe it puts you in a good mood.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, like I said, I've tried it and I still don't have a big pick.
You got a 12-inch pick.
Yeah. I don't
Positive affirmation.
Yeah, it didn't work. So.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I've seen a few of those boards, and I don't know. I mean, it's kind of two-sided for me. Like I said, I'm a big fan of people wanting, you know, a goal to shoot for, and I want them to have that optimistic look and outlook on things. You know, I think it'd be more important to actually create a plan of action. More importantly, okay, so I want to get this kind of vehicle, and it costs X amount of dollars. Okay, so now that's going to go on my board, you know, and I'm going to have a positive affirmation that that's where I'm going to get. But then there's a plan of action. Well, in order to get me that vehicle for that price, I need to get a part-time job, save an extra couple $100 a week, and within 18 months, I'll have enough to, you know, purchase that vehicle. You know, that's true sense of manifesting. That's true sense of positive affirmation. The rest of it is almost like going to church and leaving there saying, well, I feel good, you know, but going back to doing the same old shit.
Right.
You know, I feel so positive. You know, baby Jesus made me feel good today. And then head back and start cussing at people on the road because they're driving too slow or too fast.
Oh, yeah.
Well, missing the whole point.
Well, you've heard me say I was in the restaurant business 30 years, basically. And the toughest crowd, the most ornery, hardest crowd to deal with was the Sunday after church crowd.
Oh, yeah.
They were by far, not even close. I mean, even the Friday night and Saturday night drunks, you know, at least there'd only be one or two of them every now and then.
Yeah.
You know, but the dang after church crowd. But I think a lot of that is because, you know, they probably got up late and they're getting the kids ready and blah, blah, and they didn't eat nothing. And then by the time they get after church and go out to eat, they're hangry. You know,
yeah, that might be right, but I think it has something more to do that they're more about showing.
Yeah.
You know, instead of doing. And, you know, so when they get to church with their big old hats and with their fancy clothes and their fancy cars and they leave empty, they're angry because why didn't God fulfill them? Why didn't I go to church and why walk away fulfilled?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, or as Hutcherson used to say is how come I don't feel convicted? Or what's the other word he used? It's another C word.
Convict you or comfort.
Comfort. Yeah. You know, those are the two ways you should leave church.
Yeah, if you're supposed to be comforted, I hope you're comforted. If you're supposed to be convicted, I hope you're convicted.
There you go. But if you walk away empty, I mean, you're just literally going through the motions.
Right.
You're doing positive affirmation, and there ain't no real shit there.
Right. Well, I think that was his opening prayer. Like
it was
every day before he started.
Yeah, he started off, move me out of the way.
Right. Maybe
And those that need to be convicted are convicted, and those that need to be comforted are comforted.
There you go.
Amen. Let's get going.
That's a good start. I love
Let's
it.
get busy. Well, talking about getting busy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to keep talking about this, but
Sure.
there was another topic I was talking about. People in this world, the doers and then the rest.
Okay.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about the doers and the rest?
Well, that's pretty broad.
I know.
I think there are. I think, there's times where we're on both sides, on either side of that. We're not always on the same side. There's times in our life where we're should be doing when we are probably waiting around, but for doers, I think for the most part that doesn't last long. If you're I don't know. I think if you're a doer, you're really experiencing life. You're experiencing more. If you're just the rest, you're kind of along for the ride.
Okay.
You get. I don't know. Those people I challenge that. They're not doing what they're not gonna get what they're intended to get. Everybody wants.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm here for my special purpose.
Right.
You're never gonna find it if you're not doing.
Well, I think that goes with what you were talking about. Your preacher friend was talking about. A lot of people that are going to church nowadays just they're not wanting to do anything.
Yeah.
They're just going through the motions. They're not wanting to do anything. And the other day I had a little bit of a blowout. I had a conversation with a person, and it didn't turn out the way I anticipated it. And it was weird is it I was talking to a person that's not a doer, but had expectations for me to do things, which then they can, reap all the benefits of that. Which, for the most part, in my life, that's really never really it builds up on me after a while. It eats away with me after a while of where a lot of people rely on the doer, to do things. Have you ever been in the groups where something needs to get done and everybody fucking looks at themselves or each other?
Nobody volunteers. Yep.
Right. And then finally, that one person just, God damn it, give me that damn lawnmower and I'll start doing it.
Yeah, let's get this over with.
So it's different like that. Like I don't know, I get called out a lot on, oh, Tom, when you get in public, you tend to, get the center of attention. And I said, well, it'd be different if inside of me, my motive behind what I'm doing is to be the center of attention. But the truth is I'm sitting around in this circle jerk that nobody wants to freaking do something. I remember a long time ago, you and I and a couple other guys were going on these bike rides, and this guy finally got some balls on him, and he was like, why do we always have to ride wherever you want to ride? Like, because no one else fucking says anything.
Yeah, nobody will pick. Everybody goes, where do you want to go?
Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Nobody says anything.
Right.
And I just was like, it's not that going back to the doers and then the rest, right? I agree with you. There's I don't think everybody's built to be that person. I think there's a lot of people that are just built to do the bare minimum and ride it out. They have no desire to be more than, they're content, and I don't even know if that's wrong. I don't know. I mean, for me, it would drive me batshit crazy.
Right.
And I'm not saying that I'm an over the top on everything guy. I'm mediocre at a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
But the mindset of bare minimum doesn't compute with me on things. And so, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about the doers and then the rest. I'm conflicted.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know that. To me, if you're in action, you're experiencing life.
Yeah.
If you're just sitting on the sidelines, it's challenging. I do think too, though. You run across these people and you're not going to hear doers, real doers, so to speak, saying this much, but people who complain about if it's going to get done, I'm always the one that's got to do it. Blah, blah,
Right.
blah, all that. If it wasn't for me, that shit would never get done.
Right.
It always falls on me, that kind of stuff. I think those people are just seeking credit for themselves.
Yeah.
It's like they want their ego to be patted or whatever.
Right.
But they're just, and if they really feel that way, they need to get to the bottom of it. But they're doing it to themselves anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, that makes me feel like a piece of shit, Barry. Thanks a lot.
Well, it gets back to spending. How are you spending your life? Are you are you sitting on the sideline watching?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't bring it up a lot. It like I said, it eats away at me at times. I think it's mostly when there's a lot of things that need to be done and people have expectations of me and I have expectations of them. If I'm bringing this puzzle piece and you're supposed to bring that puzzle piece and we're going to work ourselves together and then come back and you don't even bring your puzzle piece with you. You don't even know what what I'm talking about.
Right.
Then I'm like, dude, what the, So now I got to do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm supposed to take care of you as well, and that gets frustrating. Yeah. It eats away at you once in a while, and you kind of, well, for me, it frustrates me.
Right. Well, I can see it,
but I don't want to. I don't want to be frustrated with it. Well, I want to just keep doing.
Well, I think keep doing is the same thing, but I think it gets back to also we talked earlier about, if you see something, you need to say something.
Yeah.
And because we're not doing somebody else any favors if they're never learning how to do.
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, a lot of people don't know. And I learned this whenever I started working in college. Well, started working a lot earlier. My dad put my ass to work when I was little. But whenever I started working for his floor covering company, going out on jobs and stuff like that, and when new people would come, man, guys just did not know how to work.
All right.
And I don't mean a specialized task or anything, but, even laborers, you show up, get to work. Get busy. That truck's got to get loaded or, whatever. Instead of sitting here, y'all been sitting here griping about this for 10 or 15 minutes. We could have had this truck 25, 30% unloaded.
Right.
Get to work. I learned that just by doing physical, as manual labor in the growing up, But I always worked. My dad always had me working.
But do you think that's innate, though? I mean, I know some people that work, their parents or whatever. I mean, I was raised by the same parents as my brothers, but, I got a brother that is lazier than all get out. Same work ethics, same pushes, same pulls, Yeah. But if you're not riding that dude's ass, he ain't doing nothing.
Yeah. See, that's a miserable way of life. If you're busy and you're working a lot, you're going to be a lot more happy. If you're contributing, you're producing, you're going to be a happier, better, well-rounded, more in tune. You're not going to have depression. We were talking earlier about depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
It's because those people usually aren't doing enough.
Yeah, but you talk to those people and they're like, dude, you do too much.
Yeah.
Why don't you enjoy life a little bit better?
Right.
Well, but they're not wanting to experience anything, but that's what they think is living is doing the bare minimum.
Right. It kind of came up last night in our group. we were talking a lot about that, about sponsoring and different stuff. And, you know, some of us do a lot. We do a lot of that work, but, you know, I enjoy it and I know why I do it. It keeps me sober. And I brought up to the group, they were talking about people's percentages of actually being successful and stuff like that. And I said, you know, when I go to these treatment centers and stuff a lot, they talk about percentages. What's their percentage of making it, you know? And I've had them ask me before, you know, as a sponsor, what's your percentage? What's your success rate?
Mm.
You know, and I told the group last night, I said, my success rate's 100%.
Right.
You know, they're like, oh, all the people you sponsor stay sober? No, no, I do. I stay sober. That's 100%. That's the one I'm concerned about. You know, yeah, I want to help that other guy, and we help a lot of people, but I'm 100%. You know, and I think, you know, a lot of the language in our literature talks about that. You know, rarely have we seen a person fail who's thoroughly followed our path. And I think that's just true in life. If you do the work, you're going to be okay.
Those are doers.
Yeah. I see it I'm in real estate, you know, and residential real estate, you don't really have a boss. We have a broker, but they don't care if you show up or not, because guess what? They're not paying you anything. You only make money if you sell something. But I see new people come in all the time and, you know, oh, I get to make my own schedule and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, maybe. But if you keep that mindset, you're not going to be here long.
Right.
You know, I don't make my schedule. My clients and customers make my schedule. And a lot of it's on the weekends and evenings, and, you know, that's the nature of the business. But a lot of those people that make their own schedule and they're going, oh, I work at this time because I have coffee and I have this and that.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't treat it like a job, you're not going to make any money at it. It's going to be gone. You got to treat it like a job. Just because you don't have somebody watching you clock in and clock out, monitoring your production, you have to do all that yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, some doers can be good. I don't want to call it self-employed, but, you know, less people watching over them.
Right.
Jobs with more freedom, so to speak. But people who aren't, they need to be told when to clock in and when to clock out and what to do in between. And we need people like that. There's nothing wrong with it. Some people are happy that way. That's great. It's just not me.
Could you imagine if this world was set up that if you don't do, you don't eat?
It was set up that way for many years. It's only been different for the last 100 years or so, you know, out of the millions of years or billions the Earth is, and however many thousands and thousands of maybe millions of years there have been critters on this Earth. Any critter you are, if you're not working, you're not eating, you're gone. Only until the past 100 years have we crippled ourselves by carrying people. And we're seeing the results. You know, all these people that can't decide whether they're a man or a woman or an in-between or a cat. What do they call them? A fur bunny? Or
I have no idea.
They want a litter box in the bathroom at school and shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's from us carrying people. And let me tell you what, like you just said, if those people didn't work and they weren't able to eat because they didn't work, they wouldn't be talking about being a fur bunny.
Right. No, I hear you.
They wouldn't have time for that shit.
Dude, you really got to read that book, Sapiens.
Yeah. Okay.
It talks about that. It talks about the revolutions of, you know, starting out with the agricultural revolution, then moving into the industrial revolution, and then moving into a religious revolution. That was after the agricultural revolution.
Yeah.
So it goes agricultural, religion, industrial, and now we're in the technology revolution. Yeah. And it all started with a stick.
Yep.
It all started with a damn stick.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah. Somebody was talking the other day that monkeys or some type of monkey or ape or something is moving into the Stone Age because they're starting to use tools on their own now. It's like a tribe of, I forget what it was, but anyway, it was something like these gorillas or monkeys or whatever they are, they're moving into the Stone Age because they're, without being prompted or anyone telling them what to do, they're starting to use primitive tools or make primitive tools, which, I mean, I don't know. I've seen squirrels grab nuts and run up to the top of the tree and drop them on the driveway trying to break them open and stuff. So,
right.
you know, they're just smart. They figure stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't know about the monkey thing, but
yeah,
you know, if you read that book Sapiens, you'd be like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah. I'll check it out.
It is. It's we should have a conversation. If you read it, we can have a conversation about it because it really, a lot of the stuff in that book, they don't teach you.
Right.
They don't want you to know.
Yeah.
That we are roaches. We are the roaches of this world. We are just infesting and just killing and destroying everything.
Well, I've always, not always, but, you know, at some point I started thinking, well, maybe we are the disease of the earth. Maybe the earth is having cancer and the cancer is us, you know, and it'll somehow get rid of us at some point and rejuvenate. So,
well, shit, you don't need to read the book, Ben. You just figured it out.
Well, that's probably what's happened. There's a lot of newer information coming out about the, call it the Younger Dryas impact. 11,800 years ago or 12,000 years ago. It's a new idea that, you know, restarted civilization, you know, by an impact that wiped out a big chunk of the population on the whole earth.
Okay.
So we started with just a few people again. And, you know, that's probably happened several times since the earth has been around. You know, we get hit by
well, that's the audacity of us Homo sapiens, you know, is we have that mindset that, oh, you know, we're going to destroy this world.
Yeah, climate change. Human caused climate change. What a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
How audacious can you be?
But yeah, if you look at how specific our world is,
right,
as far as the exact distance from a sun, right? If it was a mile closer or a mile further away, we'd burn or we'd freeze. Yeah. You know, the gravitational pull is, if it was, you know, a millisecond off or a millisecond on, you know, or vice, you know, I don't know the word is, I'm not a scientist, but if it was just off a little bit, we'd either be floating away or we'd be squished.
Right.
You know, everything is so fine tuned. For us to think that we can destroy this world is just asinine.
Yeah.
Because the moment we start messing with things, we don't get to breathe anymore.
Right.
We're just done.
That's it.
And then guess what? The earth will keep growing. It will be just fine.
Do you remember, I'll shut up after this, but do you remember what happened right after Obama got elected in the Gulf of Mexico? I think it was the Gulf of Mexico.
No.
Or in the Atlantic. But anyway, in that area.
I don't remember a lot about that time.
We had a major oil spill.
Okay.
We had the housing crash, 2008. That was right before he came in. I think that was when he came in. But
okay.
They had already caused that. That he didn't cause that. But then they had a big oil spill. And they were talking about how horrible it was and climate change and we're ruining the world. And I'm sure they made up a bunch of laws and stole a bunch of money over it. But anyway, like, we'll never be able, it's going to take this long to clean up this big oil spill. It's this many miles, huge. I mean, all the details about it.
Yeah.
Then that was a month or so later, they were out there and they couldn't find it. It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not, Mother Nature, this old world, is going to take care of itself. And it just did what it did, its number. And they were like, oh, well. And then they didn't want to talk about it after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's repercussions to all of our actions. I mean, I do believe that we need to do our best to not pollute and,
I agree with that.
Throw garbage out and stuff like that.
Just live in a clean environment.
Yeah, I think we need to do that, but to have the audacity that, I'm going to destroy this world and this world's going to die, it will destroy us before we even get close.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Cool.
So, all right, man. That's all I got for today.
That's a positive note to end on. The audacity of humankind. So, well, good. All right. You got anything else?
No, that's all I got, man. Just get busy. Be a doer.
Get out there.
Or at least freaking do your part, you know?
Yeah. Do something
I'm not saying you have to be the overzealous, get everything done type of person. Just look around, see where you're at, and pick something up. Do something.
Get out there and get busy for sure. So, all right. Well, thank everybody for hanging out with us. And y'all get out and get some sun.
All right. Peace out, y'all.
I know it's cold, but get out there.
There ain't no sun, Barry. What are you going to do? There ain't no sun.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone.
That's right.
We'll put that on there.
All right.
Talk to y'all later.
Yep. Bye.